Serious, male sex workers. What is something the general population wouldn't consider thinking of, due to sex work being more female focused? Feet tickling makes more money than you think, especially with men who have muscle and look tough, all that jazz. There are men who look like total geeks and they make a living off it. It's shockingly easy to set up. Shockingly easy, you say? Do tell more. Former male sex worker here. I got into it during a period of homelessness in my early 20s. In my experience, I had exclusively male clientele, mainly older, 45 plus, men, that were using me and my services to still feel desirable. A lot of the time, I was being paid by lonely older men that had life partners that had passed for one reason or another, or men that had gone through a breakup, etc. Gay men can be incredibly discriminatory when it comes to age, and a lot of the guys that hired me were completely disregarded by the guys, younger, fit men, that they lusted after. Pressure to perform even though I wasn't attracted to most of my clientele was incredibly high, and it was commonplace for them to offer me things like Viagra, Cialis, C, or ecstasy to get me going. The entire experience left me with an incredibly unhealthy view of sex that I still struggle with, long after I've stopped sex work. Thanks for sharing your story. I had a really unusual experience. I only had a few clients and they were all divorced women with kids that wanted a break from being a single mom. So I folded laundry, made dinner, and then went to the bedroom. There were times bedroom never happened. A few days later she would give my number to a friend who was in a similar position. It was an interesting summer. It started accidentally. I offered to work for a single mother I knew. I would cook a dinner for her and her kids and clean up the kitchen after so she could have an evening off. She'd pay for groceries and a small fee. I showed up with food and she told me her kids wouldn't be there. Some party or something she had forgotten about. No clue if that was real or fake, but I thought it was true when she told me. I offered to cook anyway, and she could open a bottle of wine and still have the night off and get pampered. I was totally flirting. She was good looking and really nice. So one thing led to another and I assumed it was just fun. But she still paid. I laughed about it to myself. Then she invited me back. We hung out for a while, I think while she worked up the nerve to get to the sex part, and then she paid me again. Felt odd, but not bad. And then she told me that she knew a woman that could really use a night off from her kids like I had given her and asked if she could pass along my number. I said yes, and that's how I became a sex worker. It didn't last long and I only had a few clients. Only the first was a woman I would have been interested in outside of the financially beneficial arrangement. And when I talked to other people about it I referred to myself as being a husband for a day. As an ex-male sex worker in Melbourne, I found it interesting that most clients were actually really respectful and not bad looking at all. Worked as a security guard in a casino. We had dozens of escorts through every night, male and female. The guys typically had the same clients as the girls, but from where I was standing got treated worse. Most of security treated them like crap. Zero sympathy. The big difference was the girls knew there were guards they could bat their eyelashes at and they'd look the other way. The guys mostly didn't have that option. I always tried to be nice to the sex workers. They had enough on their plates without me being an butthole. Call a jack, call a spade, but always call a W a lady. Their lives are hard enough, and it never hurts to be polite. I used to be a call boy. One time after a dude had finished we stayed on the phone. I was like, okay, well, as long as I'm getting paid sure I'll hang. So we talked and eventually I made a referral to Damien Lee on YouTube back when he was the face of MK. And he was like, you watch MK? And yeah, I got paid to talk about some YouTuber. Damien has his own channel now called D Lee. Profile is a little rat muffin. For me I found it was much more about what you'd be willing to do than just who you were and what you looked like. Kinkier stuff had the most interest and I found that the best way to network and get more clients was almost having to say yes to everything. One of the first clients I had blindfolded me, rubbed ice cubes all over my chest and then inserted them into my butthole. I learned pretty quickly just do what you're told, disassociate completely, and come away with grocery money for at least 2 weeks. I've done male sex work. Something I found interesting at first is that in my experience it was always more common that guys pay to suck a dong, and if they are more top oriented they're usually looking for an experience that provides them with a sense of confidence from being with a young attractive male rather than the actual pleasure derived from any act. But I never worked on the street and only had regulars I knew from Grindr to supplement beer and weed money while working or going to school. Strip club DJ here. Male dancers get sexually assaulted just as much as females. Gay dudes can, not all are, be super aggressive when in the club. Edit males in general are super aggressive. I was not trying to make a generalization about a certain LGBTQ community. The older men are kind and pay more and are genuinely more caring after the act. The young are abusive and take full advantage of everything that they can get. As someone who worked as an escort and street prostitute from the ages of 18-20 to the amount of forceful abuse I got from younger people around my age is what made me leave the profession. Also, depending on what type of stuff you are into, it can get really damaging to your own personal life if you aren't careful with who you get involved with. In my younger days I was a sex worker. We have a lot similarities to female sex workers. Almost all male clients. Same legal issues. Guys ignoring boundaries, etc. A big difference I noticed was pay. I made significantly less than my female counterparts. I don't know why, but people were just not willing to pay as much for a male sex worker during my time as an escort. Also, to be competitive you have to be in super good shape and well groomed, or in my case have a weird kink guys liked. I was still all of the above, but instead of being jacked I looked very girlish. You better be bisexual because most of your clients are still going to be men, and of the very few women that you get to sleep with most will be hideous. The bachelorette parties are not as wild as the movies make them seem, and then wild ones are usually reserved for the biggest, baddest and sexiest guys, and there's always someone bigger, badder and sexier than you. I did read once that it's harder for men to get decent work for straight sex and the pay is often lower. Even in P the pay is often bad unless it's either gay bisexual work. I'm not a male sex worker, but I do have an interesting perspective. I owned a media production company about 15 years ago. One of our jobs was to film an MTV pilot for a traveling male stripping company. This was basically Magic Mike but as a reality show, pre-Magic Mike. I think it would have been really popular if it was picked up actually. Anyway, the thing that surprised me was the double standard. There was an extreme lack of boundaries for the strippers. We had guys going to the emergency room on a regular basis because someone grabbed and injured their balls. Sometimes women actually masturbated openly in the crowd, or pulled the guy's duck out and jerked or sucked it. This was a legit, open to the public, business. So those things were very unexpected to me. Things that would definitely get a man thrown out or arrested happened regularly if the roles were reversed. I'm sure there was prostitution and other under the table illegal things going on. But my crew was usually packed up and out of there before the night got rowdy. The crowd was mostly women and they didn't tip much, but the money came in from the drinks, so the talent was still well paid from the establishment. But by the time the show was over and the crowd was wasted, we pretty much knew that we weren't going to get anything that could be shown on TV. The strippers did move into the crowd to try to make extra tips, but the huge camera rigs and lights were not always well received to the people getting a half-nude lap dance pounding on the bar top. I heard a fair amount of stories about angry husbands, after parties in hotel rooms, etc. But we focused mainly on the pre-show, dressing rooms, rehearsal, comradeship, relationships between the guys, trying to make money, etc. The show never got picked up, and the tapes are long gone as far as I know, but sometimes I still wonder what happened to some of those guys. Good people. Looking back, a lot of them were still kids who were just trying to make money. I still know the owner of the company through my old business partner. The last time I saw him was a party in 2015. He got sober and moved into 9-5 sales job. My close friend was a male escort and more than half of his clients didn't want sex, either cuddling, and one just hit him saying stuff like "you'll never touch me again" for hours. That being forced is common. I was raped twice. I am pansexual, but my first experience with a man was being raped when I had to do sex work or die on the street. Also, that there are a lot of married homophobes into being fricked hard while being told they are W. It's oddly common considering they still claim to be straight. You get a lot more men than women as a male escort in terms of offers and inquiries. This is insane to me. I mean, I get if you're suppressing it, it could come out as homophobia. But once you're getting fricked by a guy and called a W, I just can't imagine having that big of a divide between myself and reality in the same body mind. Gonna use my alt for this. Did some high-end sex work some years ago to pay for my school. Unlike most male escorts, I did only women. Didn't stop me from getting proposals from men, of course. 99% of my activities was done through an agency that sent me to hotels or receptions to make company for middle-aged or older single women, often career-oriented, who simply didn't have time for a partner. Sex was an unspoken option, even though I made most of my cash there, but I could decline and take the risk not to be booked again, and the agency did not take a cut on it. Basically, I had to play the perfect toy boy, well-mannered, literate, soft and well-spoken. I was in shape but not a sex symbol. I just checked all the boxes for a conservative stereotype of an ideal son-in-law, if you want. Some thoughts I got on it: it's still very degrading as your literal object. Women, especially older ones, are even proner than me to be infatuated with someone and shower them in gifts, but are also even quicker to dump them for the next prettier thing. All women were not old. Weirdly and quite sadly, some of the women I met were Eastern European trophy wives mistresses who didn't know anyone else save for work relations and called you to have fun. It also fricked up my money in relationship management for some years. Lots and lots of women just want to talk and someone to tell them they still look sexy. Everybody has the same basic few problems involving family, money, work, past relationships, and just need an ear to pour them in. Sex tends to happen afterwards, but there's always that kinda stage after dinner where they just unwind of their existence. The money is great though, way better than trad male escorting, who's mainly gay kinks. I could make upwards of 2-3k a night, between the dinner, post-agency fee, night, and traditional gift. Because the vast majority of your clients are male, you're at nearly the same risk of violence as females. Some cops are fairly empathetic and understanding toward female sex workers. I've never met one who is empathetic or understanding to male sex workers. Female sex workers often service their local cops for free in exchange for protection. It's very difficult to find that same arrangement as a male sex worker. Some women workers see their clients and they just want a girlfriend experience where they talk or cuddle or just hang out. I have never had a client who didn't want sex. You will have to get used to the idea of using Viagra or Cialis because most clients expect you to last for a long time. It's uncomfortable. If you run out of hard, the nice clients will give you 5 minutes to rest and try again. A surprising number of men who complain about sexless marriages are in a sexless marriage because they're gay and are simply not turned on by their spouse. The P scripts are rare, and even when you have one, it's not like in the movies. I have never been hired to a bachelorette party where any of the women look like the young beauties in P. I have only ever once been hired to service a wife because the husband can't do it, and both of them were not attractive. And maybe the least surprising, most of my regular clients are some of the most homophobic, anti-LGBTQ people out there. I worked as a sex worker just after finishing college. It was for a smaller escort service and 99% of my dates were with older, 40+ women who just wanted someone to talk with and be with who didn't ignore them. The sex wasn't good, but I sort of trained myself to finish because if you don't, it can cause a lot of issues. One of my first dates, I just wasn't attracted to the woman at all and just couldn't finish, and she ended up crying and paying me double. Whilst the money was great, I felt so bad for her and was a little depressed myself for a few days. For me, the worst part was my family finding out. I did it for almost 2 years but gave it up as I decided to return to school and do some more studying. Wow, sounds emotionally draining. I hope you are now at a better place in life. Some people who have been victims of sexual assault will pay a surprising amount of money to recreate aspects of that assault. One of my mates used to be a stripper and worked for himself as well as manpower in Las Vegas for a year or so. He never did a show without his fake penis extender. As an ordinary guy, I was taken aback when he said it looks impressive and when the ladies go the grope there is less risk of getting hurt. It shocked me because I would be wanting to increase real penis. to random lady contact, yet it was such a day-to-day thing for him. He did not really care about being fondled by out of control women. Also knew another guy that did tabletop dancing at a bar in Key West. He was completely straight and because of that, made considerably more money than the gay dancers. Many times he was offered obscene amounts to have gay sex. One night we were at someone's hotel room and there was this gay dude who really liked him, and he was just sitting on the couch letting this gay dude play with his dong like it was a stress ball or fidget spinner. It had zero life in it. You could tell it did nothing for him at all, but the other guy was in the social circle and was a nice person, so while it did not do anything for him, it also did not seem to bother him. This dude was casually fondling his dong. Odd times. I work in ball-busting fetish videos. Not sure if that qualifies. Basically I get kicked or hit in the balls by different women. The shoots usually last an hour and in peak times could have a few shoots a month. I love the fetish, but sometimes it can get to be too much, and the custom requests can get very wild. People request ruptures and castration on the regular or methods that would definitely lead to permanent injury. Had a close call getting hit with a bat, bruised my left testicle and was shut down for a month. Not sure anyone wanted to know, but it's one of those odd corners of the internet for most. Not sure if this counts, but I've M21 been paid for sex and for cuddling and the like. Older women often wanted to cuddle or would want a sperm donor. Younger women often wanted to experiment with BDSM, masochism, etc. That's a lot of what I do, but it would always turn into me listening and playing therapist. It shocked me personally to know that everyone pretty much has the same few problems. After initial introductions and surprise, of course, I can always expect that one or a few of a list of 10 things leads up to why I'm there. I think people would be shocked that even attractive younger women would pay for services of some kind. I see other men's experiences here. I feel sorry that many of them have been abused by women. All of the girls I have met with have been very kind, just very misplaced in society. Something I like to do for younger women is give them motivational talks, like a father figure kinda thing. It always works and it feels nice to have maybe pointed someone on a right path. With older women it's often reassurance that they're still confident and attractive. I end up doing more aftercare than sexual stuff, haha. Not my personal experience, but a friend of mine who used to be a male stripper told me old queens would pay to suck his dong. Oh, and he couldn't dance for crap. The bartender told him all you gotta do is hump the air. They love that stuff. If you're located in the suburbs, you'll get a lot of older and discreet spouses for clients. The amount of lonely middle-aged people with disposable income is a little insane. Many of them are looking for houseboys who do chores and keep them company when their spouses are at work. Most of the time you're naked, but sometimes they ask to do errands like going to the grocery store with them. This one lady always took me to Costco because she couldn't lift the huge pallets of bottled water. Also, I know causation and correlation are different, but I feel like stepson roleplay has been more abundant because of the popularity in P. I can't speak for women or others, but I can speak for what I went through. I had many fantasies with older men, but I never had the willpower to see them through. It wasn't until college when I decided to finally step out more, and I saw that I was very desirable to a lot of people. I'm 5'7", Latino, and with a hairless, smooth-toned body. That's basically like winning the lottery with older men. Add on the fact that I'm basically a beach boy and you get the idea. I'll never forget the first time I had sex. I was 18 and he was 60. It was most definitely predatory and I said no a billion times before I just gave it to him. However, the meeting had been planned out and he came all the way from SF to LA and got us a room to spend the night. So in a way I had agreed to this. We had spent the entire evening exploring me and feeling me up and using toys on me. Then at one point he began to undress and I had no choice but to explore him. I'll never forget how my heart sank when he got on top of me naked and I felt his entire body on me. His heat, his breath, his smell. It was the most repulsive thing I've ever felt, but I didn't push him away. He forced me to stay the entire night with him even though I wanted to leave. He had his way with me that night and I eventually enjoyed it, but not without major red flags along the way. When morning came, he paid me and sent me on my way. I felt so bad with what I had done, but I had discovered a side of me that I always wanted to see for myself. I didn't meet up with him again, but I did see other men. Some were hookups with no money involved and some were paid visits. I fricked men I liked for money and I fricked men I wasn't into for free. In all I probably saw about 6 men during that part of my life. No matter how many times I've done it, I can never not feel nausea and disgust when their CM comes in contact with my skin. It's the worst feeling when I feel the most uncomfortable and they're on top of me, staring straight at me with relief and lust in their eyes. This will get buried, but me and someone close to me hustled years ago. I was surprised that there were some okay experiences mixed in with the horrific ones. I had a couple regulars who treated me well, paid well, and I didn't mind when we hooked up. Others were awful or batshit crazy. There's a fuck ton of crap I've lived through that I have no idea how I survived. I never talk about this time in my life. People I know now have no clue who I used to be. Sounds like you've got some stuff that therapy might help out with. Holding on to that kind of pain takes a tremendous amount of energy and you deserve to have that energy back. Had a close friend that was a sex worker and stripper. He'd tell me all the time how insanely aggressive women would get towards the dancers he worked with. They'd grab their balls and grope their SS constantly, yell and spit at them, throws drinks and whatever else they had at the strippers on stage. Never let anyone tell you women can't be abusive. I was a male stripper, not sure if that's close enough for sex work. I found that older ladies are freaking fun to party with, like my fav parties with the older ladies. I've been paid a lot of money to jerk off in front of several older women. For the second time on Reddit, I ask my friend who used to be a male sex worker a question about his old profession. His message back: I would say the safety aspect. I think it's assumed male sex workers are more safe, and that is generally true, but it doesn't make it anyway risk-free. I've been in some serious situations, mate. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it a lot 90% of the time, but the way crime shows make it seems like girl sex workers are the only ones to get into trouble is crazy to me. Plus I never did the street corner thing. Feel that would have been fun. He also messaged to tell me that he doesn't understand why people would care about his answer. I told him Reddit would. Because his voice is important. Everyone has a story to tell. Some may seem mundane, but others may be very surprising. People are genuinely interesting when you ask them about themselves and their life experiences. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.